Welcome to another episode of the How I Learned to Code for Free series. This is episode 6. In episode 5, we finished applied accessibility. So today we'll start with responsive web design principles. I want to stay around the 1 hour mark, so this will just remind me. So let's dive right in. So let me copy paste the introduction. So this is 1.5. I thought I had already copy pasted that. Oh, I did, but I did it here. Right. Okay, today there are many types of devices that can access the web. They range from large desktop computers to small mobile phones. These devices have different screen sizes, resolutions, and processing power. Responsive web design is an approach to designing web content that responds to the constraints of different devices. I think this means like if you resize the window, it'll still look good. If you view the website on a smartphone, it'll look good. If you view it on a computer, it'll look good. It'll always look good. Or it's like trying to automate that process. The page structure and CSS rules should be flexible to accommodate these differences. In general, design the page's CSS to your target audience. If you expect most of your traffic to be from mobile users, take a mobile-first approach. Then add conditional rules for larger screen sizes. If your visitors are desktop users, then design for larger screens with conditional rules for smaller sizes. CSS gives you the tools to write different style rules and apply them depending on the device displaying the page. This section will cover the basic ways to use CSS for responsive web design. Sounds exciting. Okay. Lesson number 1, create media query. Ooh, great. I think media query was like in the first section, and I was pretty confused. Let me see. Media query. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it was in the second section. Okay. And I was like, what? It didn't explain anything about media queries. Oh, looks like I don't have the solution to that one. Let's see. Oops, that's not, this is like a form, I guess. I want to be able to open this chapter. I guess that's this one. Right, in the root, change it so penguin size is redefined. So just penguin size 200px. Penguin skin black. And then resize to see it in action. Okay, so this was the solution, I think. Yeah. So I will just copy paste that in here, just so we have the entire code. And we can also see, is media query in the code? Can I see media? Oh, right here, at media. Okay, so that's media query. That was a media query. So let's learn more about media queries. Media queries are a new technique introduced in CSS3 that change the presentation of content based on different viewport sizes. The viewport is a user's visible area of a web page and is different depending on the device used to access the site. Media queries consist of a media type, and if that media type matches the type of device the document is displayed on, the styles are applied. You can have as many selectors and styles inside your media query as you want. Here's an example of a media query that returns the content when the device's width is less than or equal to 100 pixels. At media, max width 100 pixels, CSS rules. So I guess just here add your rules. And the following media query returns the content when the device's height is more than or equal to 350. Okay, min height Makes sense. Remember, the CSS inside the media query is applied only if the media type matches that type of device being used. Add a media query so that the p tag has a font size of 10px when the device's height is less than or equal to 800 pixels. So this is p, add a media query. So this is the normal, normal p element. So I guess we'll say at media, and then less than or equal to. So max height 800 px, and then say font size 10 px. But I guess this doesn't really make sense because it has to be in a p element. Not sure. Add a media query. I'm not sure. Maybe this has to be in the p element. No, add a media query below. Okay. So is this it? No. Okay. So maybe I need another, like I need the p element here. Maybe it's like this. Right, that would make sense in a way. Yeah, okay, great. Whew, I'm glad that that was the right way and not the first one, otherwise it would be confusing for me. Make an image responsive. 1.5.2. Making images responsive with CSS is actually very simple. Instead of applying an absolute width to an element, you can use max width 100%, display block height auto. Okay, max width should be 100%, so like the original width of the image. Display block, I don't know yet. Okay, the max width property of 100% scales the image to fit the width of its container. Oh, but the image won't stretch wider than its original width. Setting the display property to block changes the image from an inline element, its default, to a block element on its own line. So that means it will start in a new line, and I guess any other, yeah, that doesn't, I guess that's the only thing that it does. The height property of auto keeps the original aspect ratio of the image. Right, that makes sense. Add style rules for the img tag to make it responsive to the size of its container. It should display a block level element. It should fit the full width of its container without stretching, and it should keep its original aspect ratio. So image source yada yada. Do I just... Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is the image source, and then I have to create a new element. Well, not an element, but like tag. No, I have to add style rules. Okay. Right, so for all images, right, max width 100%, display block height auto. Does this work? It looks like it's working. No, it's not resizing it. Add style rules for the img tag. So I'm adding style rules, max width 100%, max width display block height auto. Okay, here we go. Here, it's resizing. Great. Okay. Oh, I should check the solution. No errors. Use a retina image for a higher resolution displays. Retina displays. Forgot about those. The simplest way to make your images appear retina and optimize them for retina displays is to define their width and height values as only half of what the original file is. Man, isn't retina something like this retina image, isn't it something that Apple invented? Oops. Retina resolution? Retina display. Yeah, it's a brand name used by Apple. So why are we saying retina? Image for higher resolution displays. Okay, whatever. To define their as only half of what the original file is. Right, because I think retina images are have 4 times the resolution. That's why half and half is 4 times. Here's an example of an image that is only using half of the original height and width. Style image height 250, 250. 500. Okay. But I mean, this is manual. Like, can't we do 50%? Set the width and height of the image tag to half of their original values. In this case, both the original height and width are 200 pixels. Okay, I'm going to try that. I mean, percentage would make sense, right? 50%. Width, 50%. Why didn't that work? I mean, why is it doing something? Height 50%, width 50%. Oh, so it's always, okay, so it's like only taking 50% of this space and 50% of the vertical space. Okay, so yeah, okay, in a way I kind of understand why this doesn't work. Oh, it's supposed to be half. Okay, so just 100 px. So now it's ready for retina displays because, you know, they have 4 times the amount of pixels on their screens. Make typography responsive. Ooh, so changing the font size, I guess. Instead of using EM or PX to size text, you can use viewport units for responsive typography. Viewport units, like percentages, are relative units, but they're based off different items. Viewport units are relative to the viewport dimensions, width or height of a device, and percentages are relative to the size of the parent container element. Okay, right, so that's why the other image, the parent container, was the page, so 50% width meant half of the width of the page. And here, with viewport units, we can tell it to be relative to the dimensions of a device, or the display dimensions. The 4 viewpoint, oh, there are 4 different viewport units. VW, viewports width, would be 10 viewport. Okay, so it's percentage of the original viewport's width. VH, height. Okay, so width, height, min would be 70% of the viewport's smaller dimension. Ah, interesting. Okay, this is pretty cool. Would be 100% of the viewport's bigger dimension. But this is text, right? So I'm a bit confused what this is supposed to mean. Set the width of H2 tag to 80% of the viewport's width, and the width of the paragraph as 75% of the viewport's smaller dimension. Okay, so I guess up here, page 2, font size, 80% of the viewport's width, so 80 view W. Why? So shouldn't it be font size instead of size text? Oh, I have to do that. No, that doesn't help. This is just the name. You know, it's not telling you how it should be declared. I'm a bit confused. Let's continue. And then paragraph, font size, 75 vmin. Maybe here, but I mean it should be in the style. That's why the style, what is here? 10 would be 10%. No, so 80 would be 80%. It's not like this. Maybe they made a mistake. Okay, so so this is okay, now I see it. This should be width. Okay, so we're not, okay, that makes sense. We're not telling the font size to be a certain size. We're telling the whole element should be. Okay, and this is, I guess, height. So if I change the width to change the size of the text, 80% of the viewport's width. I guess this is right. Set the width and the width of the smaller dimension, right, okay. Right, so now we're telling, so let's say this is the screen, right? The smaller dimension is the width, and we're telling the width of this paragraph should be 75% of the screen width. So that's why there's a 25% space here. And if I say 75 max, I guess it just fills it, right? It should look the same, yeah. Because I'm telling it that the width of this paragraph element should be 75% of the larger dimension. That would be the height. So 75% of the height would be like from the top to, I don't know, like here. So that's bigger than the paragraph, than the width itself. So that's okay-ish. I mean, so that's why it's just filling the entire width. Vmin. Viewport min. Okay. Okay. Understood. Oh, really? That was responsive web design principles. Okay. So now CSS Flexbox 1.6. A website's user interface, UI, has two components. First, there are the visual elements such as colors, fonts, and images. Second, there's the placement or positioning of those elements. In responsive web design, a UI layout must accommodate many different browsers and devices accessing the content. CSS3 introduced flexible boxes, or Flexbox, to create page layouts for a dynamic UI. It is a layout mode that arranges elements in a predictable way for different screen sizes and browsers. While somewhat new, all popular modern browsers support Flexbox. This section covers how to use Flexbox and the different layout options it offers. Okay. CSS Flexbox. Use display flex to position two boxes. 1.6.1. Oh, forgot the last sentence. This section uses alternating challenge styles to show how to use CSS to position elements in a flexible way. First, a challenge will explain theory, then a practical challenge using a simple tweet component will apply the Flexbox concept. Placing the CSS property display flex on an element allows you to use other flex properties to build a responsive page. Add the CSS property display to box container and set its value to flex. So display flex, that's it. Okay, that's step one, I guess. Right? Right? No. Okay, I thought that would be just step one. Well, because I don't see any special flex properties here. But maybe these are, no, these aren't flex properties. Let's see if there's anything in the video.
Flexbox is used to position CSS elements in a flexible way. So we're going to be talking about Flexbox in this section. To use flex on an element, we're going to have to set the display to flex. That's what I'll do here. Display flex. So now we've set this box container to display flex. And you can see it now sets the boxes right next to each other on the page.
Wait, is this a video for the next lesson? Superpowers? Right, okay. Okay, so it didn't explain anything, so maybe this is what it is. Yeah, I'm guessing it's allowing the width and height to be dynamic. So let's remove this. Is it? Yeah, it's still dynamic. Okay, the only thing that it's doing is adding this box next to the other one. Adding the orange one. Why? Okay, I don't really understand. But what I'm gonna do is, oh, I finally have a screenshot tool. So it turns this into this. Okay, but I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I'll keep it for now. Add flex superpowers to the tweet embed. To the right is the tweet embed that will be used as the practical example. Tweet embed, Quincy. So this is taking stuff from Twitter, I guess. TWIMG. TWIMG.com. TWIMG.com. Okay, I don't know what this website is. Okay. Right, some of the elements would look better with a different layout. Yeah, like these down here, right? So what is this page doing? Style, it has a body element, header. The header is empty. Header, profile, thumbnail. Header, profile name, follow btn, button, follow button, button. Header 3, header 4, inner paragraph, inner HR. Footer, header, image. Quincy Larson at Osea. Div class stats, div class retweets. Strong 107 retweets. Okay, nothing fancy, just super basic. The last challenge demonstrated display flex. Here, you'll add it to several components in the tweet embed to start adjusting their positioning. Add the CSS property display flex to all of the following items. Note that the selectors are already set up in the CSS. Okay, so header, display flex. Oh, it's like you don't have to do anything. It just automatically does something to it. Profile name. Huh. So without it, it's down here. With it, depending on the screen size, it's always interesting. So it adds it, like it creates a second line for Larson, but it adds Osea right next to it. Okay, that's pretty neat. Headers follow button. Okay, so without this, if I decrease the size, this weird thing happens. And with the follow button, okay, can't really see a difference. Where is the follow button? Oh, so no. Oh, it's taking, maybe it's like using the same height of the tallest element, maybe. The header's H3, header H4, did that change anything? No, but maybe when you change I don't know, can't see any changes. The footer, oh nice, and the stats, so that's probably going to come up here, yep. Okay, nice. I wouldn't say this is too complicated, it's a pretty simple example, but let's just have it in here. Use the flex direction property to make a row. Adding display flex to an element turns it into a flex container. This makes it possible to align any children of that element into rows or columns. You do this by adding the flex direction property to the parent item and setting it to row or column. Creating a row will align the children horizontally, and creating a column will align the children vertically. Other options for flex direction are row reverse and column reverse. Note, the default value for the flex direction property is row. Okay, that makes sense. That's why everything was just added right next to the other element. Add the CSS property flex direction to the box container element and give it a value of row reverse. Okay, so it's just going to switch these two around to the box container flex direction row reverse. Right, and then there's column, so then the orange box will be underneath the blue one. Yes. So row reverse. Pretty simple. Apply the flex direction property to create rows in the tweet embed. I thought we already did that. I mean, just the default direction I thought was rows. The header and footer in the tweet embed example have child items that could be arranged as rows using the flex direction property. This tells CSS to align the children horizontally. Add the CSS property flex direction to row. Okay, I don't know why that should help. So let's make a screenshot of what it looks like right now. And then, so flex direction row to the header and footer. Display flex. Where's the footer? Display flex. Doesn't look any different. Does this look different? So let's get the follow button in here. Oh. Okay. This is what it looks like after the flow direction. And if I undo, looks the same. Okay, today I got a screenshot tool, hoping that it would be helpful, but the screenshots aren't helping today. What's going on? Okay, so I don't need the screenshots this time. But I did what they wanted me to do. Use the flex direction property to make a column. So this is question 12. Nothing changes when I apply the new code here. Question 13. So this can be red because it's a question. Uh, 1.6.5, right? Right. Sorry about that. The last two, use the flex direction property to make a column. The last two challenges set to row, column by vertically stacking, give it a value of column. Yeah, we did that before. Flex direction column. Easy peasy. Apply the flex direction property to create a column in the tweet embed. To the profile name element. Earlier row similarly would work well stacked as a column to the header's profile name. Display flex direction column. Okay, kind of makes sense, yeah. Don't need the solution. Align elements using the justify content property. Sometimes the flex items within a flex container do not fill all the space in the container. It is common to want to tell CSS how to align and space out the flex items a certain way. Fortunately, the justify content property has several options to do this. But first, there's some important terminology to understand before reviewing these options. Here's a useful image showing a row to illustrate the concepts below. Okay, this is the main size. This is the cross size. Apparently, this is the main start, main end, cross start, cross end. Okay, so cross is somehow like height of a row. Flex item, flex item, flex container. Main axis, cross axis. So main is X, cross is Y, or main is width, cross is height, something like that. Recall that setting a flex container as a row places the flex items side by side from left to right. A flex container set as a column places the flex items in a vertical stack from top to bottom. For each, the direction of the flex items are arranged. For each, the direction the flex items are arranged is called the main axis. For a row, this is a horizontal line that cuts through each item, and for a column, the main axis is a vertical line. Okay, so the general definition that I tried to create was wrong. So the main axis is just how the items get stacked. If it's a row, then it's the x-axis. If it's a column, then it's the y-axis. So the main is the stack, I guess. There are several options for how to space the flex items along the line that is the main axis. One of the most commonly used is justify content center, which aligns the flex items to the center inside the flex container. To the center inside the flex container. Other options include flex start aligns items to the start of the flex container. For a row, this pushes the items to the left of the container. For a column, this pushes the item to the top of a container. Flex end aligns items to the end of the flex container. To the right, to the bottom. Space between aligns items to the center of the main axis with extra space placed between the items. The first and last items are pushed to the very edge of the flex container. For example, in a row, the first item is against the left side of the container, the last is the right, then the other items between them are spaced evenly. Space around is similar to space between, but the first and last items are not locked to the edges of the container. The space is distributed around all the items. An example helps show this property in action. Add the CSS property, justify content to the box container element, and give it a value of center. Try the other options to see if there are differences, but note that the value of center is the only one that will pass this challenge. Okay. To the box container. So there's a box container element. Background is gray. Display is flex. Height is 500. Then there's box 1, blue. Box 2, orange. Okay, so this is like the box container. Height is 500. And this is... So I hope this is like a sub thing, because, you know, it's in the main div. So this is the second sub div. These are second sub divs. So these are just taking the same height as the box container. Yes. What about the width? Oh, 25%, 25%. So if I deleted these, why doesn't this work? I don't get why this doesn't work. Okay, so doesn't matter for now. If I delete this, yeah. So the gray box container is actually, it covers the entire width. And this comes on top of them, on top of the gray box 1 and 2. So here I'm just supposed to add justify content center. Right, that makes sense. So this evenly aligns all the flex item to the center. If I change, let's see, let's do width 100 px. Okay, So it didn't center the box container. How could I center the box container? Text align center. Text align center. Center an element horizontally. Margin. Not sure if that's going to help. Oh. Okay, so if I do margin auto, the box container is in the center. If I do this, it'll just cover the entire screen. But this is interesting to see, what kind of a change it does. So, okay, justify content center, justify content flex start. So this pushes the child elements to the left. Right. I mean, makes sense. Flex end to the right. Space between. So this is gonna leave, oops, I don't want to see it. This is, so there are only two elements. So the blue box will stay here and the orange box will go here, I'm thinking. Because there are no other elements. Yes, but if there was a third element, for example, let's just try box 3, box 3, red. Right, so that's in the middle. And now if I do space around, it's not going to push this one to the left and the red one to the right. I don't like red here. Let's do yellow. But it's going to take the sum of these two spaces and divide it by 4. So one is going to be here, an empty space, one here, one here, one here. So it's going to distribute these evenly. Space around. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. There was one more thing I wanted to try. What was that? Oh, right. Row. I want to try column. But I guess then I would have to change height to 50% or something. Or 25. Yeah, let's do 25. So now if I say flex, was it direction? Flex something, I think it was flex direction, yeah. So flex direction, oh, maybe I have to put it in the parent thing, let's see. Oh, sorry, column. Yeah. Okay, and how can I bring these three in the middle? I guess, don't think this is gonna work. Huh. Okay. Can you have two flex directions? No. It's probably going to use the second one then. Yeah. Okay, some things are a bit clearer now for me, and I'm a little bit more confused as well, but I'm starting to get some things. So I'll just reset all code, and I'll add, so justify content center. Okay. Should copy this. Next lesson. Use the justify content property in the tweet embed. Is it 8? Yeah, I think it should be 8. The last challenge showed an example of the justify content property. For the tweet embed, this property can be applied to align the items in the profile name element. Add the CSS property justify content to the header's profile name element and set the value to any of the options from the last challenge. Justify header profile name. Oops. Oh, header profile name. Flex direction column. Justify content center. Now, so this does it. Oh, right. So now since it's column, and this is just the profile name. Right. So these two items are stacked in a column. We can also do row. Flex margin. Oh, but now there are different items in this row, I guess. So that's why. Header, footer, flex direction row. What happens if I do this? Okay. This is a bit, it's not very clear, you know? Okay, I guess we just need more examples to slowly understand what's going on. Align elements using the align items property. The align items property is similar to justify content. Recall that the justify content property aligned flex items along the main axis. For rows, the main axis is a horizontal line, and for columns, it's the vertical line. Yes. Flex containers also have a cross axis, which is the opposite of the main axis. For rows, the cross is the vertical. For columns, it's yes. CSS offers the align items property to align flex items along the cross axis. For a row, it tells the CSS how to push the items in the entire row up or down within the container. And for a column, to the left, right. Okay. The different values align items include flex start, flex end, center, stretch, baseline. This is the same, right? Was it called flex start for the justify content? Flex start, flex end, yes. Okay, so those two are the same. Align item to the start of the flex container. Align items to the center. Stretch the items to fill the flex container. For example, rows items are stretched to fill the flex container top to bottom. Baseline, align items to their baselines. Baseline is a text concept. Think of it as the line that the letters sit on. Okay. An example helps show this property in action. Add the CSS property align items to the box container. Align items. Let's try center. So these are, so the flex direction isn't defined, so it's row, right? Yeah. So this should be for the cross axis. Let's see, let's just try flex direction should be row anyway. This shouldn't change anything. If I do column, that should change stuff, right? So just to make sure that the default is row, now we're sure. What I don't understand, so these are rows, so the main axis would be this one, the x-axis, and that's what how it's stacking these two. I thought this was the align items property should have been for the cross axis. So for row, it tells the CSS how to push the items in the entire row up or down. Right, so why is this happening now? I don't get it.
The align items property is similar to the justify content property. The justify content property aligns along this main axis right here, but the align items property aligns along the cross axis. And these axes are opposite if you're using a column instead of a row, where the cross axis would be back and forth, left and right for a column, and the main axis would be up and down for a column. But this diagram shows a row. And the different values for align items are pretty much the same as they are for justify content. You have the flex start, flex end, center, stretch, and baseline. So the stretch and baseline are the different ones. Stretch will stretch the items to fill the flex container, and baseline will align the items to their baselines. So let's see an example of this in our code here.
Yes.
We are going to add something to our box container here. So I'm going to put align items
center,
and then I'll set it to center. And we should be able to see what that does here. So let me refresh the page.
Yeah,
You see these have been aligned to the center of our page here.
Okay, it's but it's not aligning it to the center of the page either, because look at this. What am I not getting here? Ask for help. Read, search, ask. Right, I just want to check if there's a post already created. Okay, maybe not now. Watch a video, get a hint. Okay, let's try a few others, maybe that'll help. Flex start. Oh, now I get it. So it doesn't change the way they're stacked, it changes just the vertical position somehow. Right, but this should look the same as baseline. So this is baseline, flex start. Okay, now I see. Baseline just takes the largest one, I guess. Yeah, okay, that's baseline, and stretch. Okay, and without this, it was the same. Okay, center. Okay, slowly understanding. Still a bit confused. Use the align items property in the tweet embed. The last challenge introduced the align items property and gave an example. This property can be applied to a few tweet embed elements to align the flex items inside them. Add the property align items to the header's follow button element. Set the value to center. Follow button element, align items, center. And stretch, I guess, will, stretch it vertically. Yeah, okay, so center. Pretty simple. Use the flex wrap property to wrap a row or column. Wrap. Not like singing or rapping. CSS Flexbox has a feature to split a flex item into multiple rows or columns. By default, a flex container will fit all flex items together. For example, a row will all be on one line. However, using the flex wrap property, it tells CSS to wrap items. This means extra items move into a new row or column. The breakpoint of where the wrapping happens depends on the size of the items and the size of the container. Okay, so right now, CSS also has options for the direction of the wrap. No wrap, this is the default setting, does not wrap items. Wrap wraps items from left to right if they're in a row, or top to bottom if they're in a column. Wrap reverse wraps items from top to top, from bottom to top if they're in a row or right to left. Current layout has too many boxes for one row. Add the CSS property flex wrap to the box container. Makes sense. So flex, I'm telling it to flex wrap. And give it a value of wrap. Okay, so now, right, because the width is 25%, only 4 of these boxes should fit. But if we don't have this wrap, since it's flex, it tries to fit everything in there. Okay, that's kind of important to remember, that it changes the width. Like these rules are kind of overwritten, right? So here it would be helpful to have a screenshot, I would say. So this is without the code. And that turns into this. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I can fit both in there. Like side by side would be good. We'll just make it really small. Hey, why are you not coming? There we go. Okay, let's see if I can multi-select. No. Okay, that's good enough. Nice. I like this. That's it for this one. Use the flex shrink property to shrink items. 1.6.10. So far, all the properties and challenges apply to the flex container, the parent of the flex items. However, there are several useful properties for the flex items. The first is a flex shrink property. When it's used, it allows an item to shrink if the flex container is too small. Items shrink when the width of the parent container is smaller than the combined widths of all the flex items within it. The flex shrink property takes numbers as values. The higher the number, the more it will shrink compared to the other items in the container. For example, if one item has flex shrink value of 1 and the other has 3, the one with the value of 3 will shrink 3 times as much as the other. Add the CSS property flex shrink to both box 1 and 2. Give box 1 a value of 1 and box 2 a value of 2. So box 1 will be 66%, so the blue one, and the orange one will be 33% of the width. So flex shrink to 1, the blue one should be 1. And flex shrink is funny. Oh, I didn't even add. Right, I got it right. That makes sense. Yeah. And this is pretty easy to visualize. Use the flex grow property to expand items. The opposite of flex shrink is the flex grow property. Recall that flex shrink controls the size of the items when the container shrinks. The flex grow property controls the size of items when the parent container expands. Using a similar example from the last challenge, if one item has a flex grow 1, add the CSS property flex grow to box 1 and 2. Flex grow 1. Oh wait, so without this, there are no boxes. Height 500. Oh, that was the 1 hour mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Where's my alarm? Okay, so let's see how many chapters we have left. One, two, three, four. Let's finish all of these. Use the flex grow, right? So, don't see why we're not seeing the boxes right now. Display flex, height 500. Where are the boxes? Oh, because there's nothing here about the width. Okay, right. So we're telling it to flex grow 1. It's going to fill the whole thing. Flex grow 2. There we go. Okay, that makes sense. Nice. Nice, so you can tell it to fill the entire width. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Use the flex basis property to set the initial size of an item. The flex basis property specifies the initial size of the item before CSS makes adjustments with flex shrink or flex grow. The units used by the flex basis property are the same as other properties, pixels, em, or percentage, etc. The value auto sizes items based on the content. Set the initial size of the boxes using flex basis. Flex basis 10 em. 20 em. I wonder why we need to tell them what the initial value should be. I wonder what the get a hint button does. Never tried this. Oh, are these like all the hints? All the solutions? I think they are. Oh, pull requests. Not there yet. Okay, these are hints, I guess. Yeah, so that's that. Flex basis. Use the flex shorthand property. There is a shortcut available to set several flex properties at once. The flex grow, shrink, basis properties can all be set together using the flex property. For example, flex 1, 0, 10 will set flex grow to 1, shrink to 0, and flex basis to 10. The default properties are flex 0, 1 auto. Okay, so it never grows. It shrinks to 1. So it grows the same, and the basis depends on the content. And the CSS property flex to both 1 and 2. So flex 2 to 150 pixels. Flex 1, 150 pixels. So now it's growing 2 to 1, right? 2, 2, 1. Let's do this. What happens then? So now the shrink values are different. So when it grows, the blue box is larger. I guess if the window is smaller. Oh, right. So this shrinks more. So maybe this is better. Yeah. Okay. So now when they're supposed to grow, the blue box grows more. And when they're supposed to shrink, the blue box shrinks more. So actually, I think this example would have made more sense. Now it will always be 66% and 33%. But maybe there's a reason for that. Use the order property to rearrange items. The order property is used to tell CSS the order of how flex items appear in the flex container. By default, items will appear in the same order they come in the source HTML. Property takes number as values, and negative numbers can also be used. Give 2 and 1. So it's just going to switch the order. Order 2. Order 1. Yeah, okay. Pretty basic stuff. Use the align self property. Uh, 1.6.15. The final property for flex items is align self. This property allows you to adjust each item's alignment individually instead of setting them all at once. This is useful since other common adjustment techniques using the CSS properties, float, clear, and vertical align, do not work on flex items. Oh. This could kind of be important. Align self accepts the same values as align items and will override any values set by the align items property. Add the CSS property align self to both box 1, align self. Terrible. That's it, right? It doesn't need any align self. Accepts the same value. Oh, so like center. Oh, it does say give it a value of center. Okay. Give box 1 a value of center, and a box 2 a value of flex end. Well, that's new. Align self values, flex end, center. Oh, this one's pretty good. Yeah, developer Mozilla org is really good, really detailed. Lots of information in there. Oh, cool. There are demos. The align self CSS property overrides a grid or flex items align items value. In grid, it aligns the item inside the grid area. In Flexbox, it aligns the item on the cross axis. Align self stretch, align self center, start, end. The property doesn't apply to block level boxes or table cells. If a Flexbox item's cross axis margin is auto, then align self is ignored. What about, what was flex end? Flex end. Put the flex item at the end. The cross end margin edge of a flex item is flushed with the cross end edge of the line. And the cross is flushed. So, wait, what other options were there? Center, stretch, start, end. stretch, start, end, flex end. Okay. So that completes episode 6, and we finished, let me check. So we finished responsive web design principles and CSS Flexbox. Next up will be CSS Grid. Looks like a relatively mid-sized chapter. And then responsive web design projects. Ooh, the fun part, finally. Great, great, great. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or if you have any suggestions or improvement ideas, and I'll see you in the next video.